Welcome, everybody, to the Dynamic Duo. I'm Franz.
I'm Kevin. Welcome to the new Batcave and Avengers Tower, everybody. Good to see you.
Welcome back, Kevin. Welcome back. Listen, we've got much to talk about. Several things were released, including the WandaVision TV show, and I'm dying to get your opinion on that. But you were just telling me about the latest announcement from Zack Snyder, and I wanted to talk to you about it on the show. So,
Okay.
what were you saying?
On Sunday afternoon, an official press release was put out by Warner Brothers and Snyder himself.
Okay.
As you know, and I'm sure more than half the universe knows, at some point last year when they were putting all this together, both before the pandemic and after, it had been said that the movie was going to be cut up into various pieces and it was going to be 4 separate parts and an hour each. At one point before the end of last year, it was then said that it was going to be 2 parts or separated into 2 parts comprising of the 4 hours. Now, as of the weekend, it has been officially said that the film is not going to be cut up into sections. They're not doing it that way at all. It's going to be a 4 hour run.
4 hour run.
It's going to be a 4 hour run. It's going to stream for 4 hours via HBO Max. And at this point, they are still planning on doing exactly what Wonder Woman did. It is going to be released in theaters, but it's going to be a limited run in theaters, as with the case with Wonder Woman. But it's going to run for 4 straight hours.
Now, let me ask you, what do you think about that?
Okay, this is a double-edged sword for me. It might work, and that's the easiest way for me to put it. I almost think 4 hours is too much. Both for although we've had incredibly long movies throughout the history of cinema, okay, that has nothing to do with the superhero end of it. You've had movies that have been 3 hours, 3.5 hours, 4 hours. A couple of them have even been almost 4.5 hours long.
Wait, we've had four hour movies?
Yeah, we've had a couple. There have been a couple in the history of the industry. When the Ten Commandments originally ran, it was a couple of minutes shy, and I mean like 6 minutes shy of 4 hours.
Interesting.
The movie
Interesting.
was eventually cut down because it was re-released a couple of different times over the course of Hollywood history, and there have been others like that as well. Um, like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword to me. I'm not saying that people aren't going to go, but what I think may counteract part of what they're doing, and this is not against Snyder himself or the idea of the Justice League cut or anything of the kind. I just think that with the pandemic still in our lives and the fact that it's only being released that way in a handful of theaters nationwide, that literally shanghaiing people for 4 hours um, is a bit much. At the same time, if he's put together the cut the way that everybody has been hoping and praying, it might work and he may enthrall people long enough that the 4 hour run won't make a difference. I consider Endgame. Endgame was a couple of minutes shy of almost 4 hours.
Oh,
Give or
was it?
take. Yeah, give or
Oh,
take.
okay.
It was, if I remember correctly, Endgame was like 4 hours and 40 minutes, or 4 hours and I mean 3 hours and 40 minutes, or 3 hours and
Wow.
45 minutes. It was long.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay.
And regardless of whether you like the movie or not, it kind of held you in place. If Snyder has done the same thing, then Warner Brothers and DC and himself will succeed. If they haven't and this begins to drag out, I hate to say it, they've got a disaster on their hands. because
This is
people,
one of those situations where it's all in. I think Zack Snyder is going all in. He's at the table, he's got the chips, and he's literally putting it all in, and he's risking it all. You're absolutely right in that it either works or doesn't work. Now, you said something that makes it less dramatic to me. The fact that Endgame was about 4 hours, I imagine 4 hours is pretty, the whole afternoon in the movie theater. And so if Endgame did it and I didn't really notice as much, I think it'll work, much easier for Justice League. In other words, in my mind, initially, I'm thinking, oh my God, 4 hours is an extremely long time. But if it's been done before, then then it's not as bad as I initially thought in terms of length of time. Now, I did feel, as you know, I have a different opinion about Endgame. I didn't like Endgame at all, but I did feel that Endgame ran long. But I also feel this is a different time. What I mean by that is that because of COVID and because this movie is being released through HBO Max, where you could stream it from home, there's a little bit greater comfort. There's a little bit of and I'm just going to spend the afternoon on my couch watching this, and there's also a little bit of, I haven't been to the movies in a long time. And so, you know what, I'm just going to go and spend the afternoon with, 10% of the people or whatever, 50% of the people at the movie theater. So I think the environment, the circumstances are more conducive to a 4-hour movie than it was before. Having said that, I don't think it changes what you said earlier, which is either works or it doesn't work. Now, for it to work, what it has to do is deliver. And it's a very tenuous thing to do. And here's what I mean by that. It there's Zack Snyder has a weird history with the fans, right? They love him one minute, they hate him the next minute. They're for him one minute, and they're against him the next minute. Like, Zack Snyder has had a very tenuous relationship with the fans. And sadly, and I absolutely disagree with that, many times the judgment, in my opinion, has been unfair. As I said, a lot of his movies were prejudged prior to them being released, and they pre-decided that they're going to hate it, and they hated it no matter what. So Zack Snyder has fallen into that crowd. So there's a crowd of haters of Zack Snyder out there who are ready for this movie to fail, and who are ready to say, this sucks, Marvel is better. So you not only have to deliver a good movie, you have to deliver a movie in such a way that it overcomes even those people. It makes them, even those people, say, oh, wow, this was a great movie. I've loved the previous Zack Snyder movies. I don't know what more he could do to please that crowd, to be honest with you, but it'll be an interesting thing it'll be an interesting challenge.
I, again, I do agree with you. I honestly hope on another level that this succeeds for him, and I'm not kidding, because if it doesn't, and you may think that I'm overstepping this, but honestly, I don't. If it doesn't, he's going to have some career problems.
Yeah.
Because between Warner Brothers and the folks that run HBO, in all honesty, Franz, they're kind of sick of him. All right. Part of what came out in a press release before Wonder Woman was released during the holidays was that the film still wasn't ready, and he had lied to them about how quick it was going to come out. They're getting tired of some of the game playing. Now, I'm sure you may have heard or remembered, if you followed it, that when they did one of the DC fandom things last summer, he turned around and said, as recently as this past weekend, that he really wished he hadn't done fandom, because in his mind now, the fandom experience was a waste of time. Okay, you can't keep going back and forth like that. And although you can be honest with the audience that you're gearing this stuff toward, the one thing you don't want to do is to start cutting your audience up into pieces. They haven't even seen your movie yet, and you're like, oh, it was a waste of time. I shouldn't have done. Do you realize who's going to end up watching this movie?
Yeah, you're right.
It's a dangerous thing to do, and not to equate it back to Star Wars, but in its own right, it's the same thing that Rian Johnson did concerning Star Wars and The Last Jedi. Okay, he kind of stepped into the fray and went, okay, to heck with all that George Lucas and J.J. Abrams stuff, and even what Irvin Kershner did with The Empire Strikes Back. I'm gonna do my own thing. Okay, great, do your own thing. But in the course of him trying to pump people up, he alienated people. You can't do that. That's cinematic suicide. Okay, it you can't you can't do it. You're making a mistake, and in some cases, there's no coming back from it. Also, one of the things that he got in trouble for was that because he had said to all of the executives involved, "Hey, the movie is like pretty much ready." They took it upon themselves after talking to him to cut together some form of a trailer or teaser. And then he turned around and said, "Oh, no, you shouldn't have done that. It wasn't ready that much." And they were like, "Zach, you kind of knew that when we were doing it, and you didn't open your mouth." That's what I mean by cinematic suicide.
So you made a lot of very, very good points. The first thing you said is, if this doesn't work, this could be a career ending situation. I'll take it a step further. In other words, I not only agree with you, but I think not only would it ruin Zack Snyder's career, seriously, but it would affect the whole DC verse.
Yes.
And that whole DC verse would fall apart. The one thing that was holding the DC verse together solidly just fell apart recently, which was Wonder Woman. The one thing that across the board everybody was satisfied with, Wonder Woman, that has fallen apart completely. And there's a lot of hate, undeserved hate, I think. I mean, Jesus Christ, the movie wasn't good, but it wasn't that horrible. I still say Thor was worse. Anyway. Thor Ragnarok was worse. I'm sorry to say, but anyway.
I love you.
You know I gotta drop those. So I think that if Zack Snyder fails on this venture, then we have completely and absolutely lost the Ben Affleck, which there's still a chance he might come back. We've lost a lot of that DC verse completely, and we would take a whole other direction with a new director. And we may, the risk may, it's one of those things that may just fall apart, and maybe we won't get another DC movie in another 10 years or so. These types of things have happened before. The second thing that you talked about is Zack Snyder's attitude. And I agree with you. It's a fascinating thing. You know, I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I really am a Zack Snyder fan. And Zack, if you get the chance to listen to this, I hope you pay attention to this. As a fan, there are things that I like about Zack Snyder, and there are things that I don't understand about Zack Snyder. Because the reason I like Zack Snyder is because, for me, he honors the genre, like I've said before, better than any other director. He respects the genre better than any other director. That's my feeling on the issue. Okay. Having said that, he seems to not respect the fan and not respect the material as much. It's almost a contradictory situation. So, for example, when the fans got upset that Batman kills, the attitude should not have been, get over it. What are you, a bunch of geeks, get over it, but, grow up. It should have been, you know what, you're absolutely right. Batman doesn't kill. It was a tough decision for me to make, and and this is why I made him do that. When you dismiss the fans, you're absolutely correct. That's a dangerous thing to do, because the fans will turn on you regardless of the material. You could deliver the best movie ever, and they'll hate you, and they'll ruin you. And that brings up a third issue, which is that fans are fascinating because at the same time, we understand our power and we're very powerful. We could make or break a movie, and we've demonstrated that. But at the same time, we also don't understand our power, and we give up our power. And sometimes we kiss ass and we accept whatever's thrown at us, the garbage, and we're afraid to demand what the genre is. There's a lot of contradictions within the genre, to be quite honest with you.
Mhm.
But what it comes down to is that this is an all-in, push all the chips in, and ultimately, personally, I like that move. I like it. Let's go. Let's go. You believe in your material. You want it to be 4 hours. You want me to have that experience. You want me to sit in a movie theater and see that thread. And it's a 4-hour sacrifice. And I say, yeah, put your vision on screen. Let me see what your ultimate delivery as an artist, as a director, as a performer, and let me enjoy it. And I'm personally, I'm in. I like the move.
Note to self: be careful playing poker with you.
Absolutely, man. You got to play poker.
I love your poker face. Yeah. Be careful playing poker with you, man.
Listen, I'm in the process. Well, I was watching a thing recently about this has occurred many, many times, but in particular, it was about the song Bohemian Rhapsody. And when Queen first wrote that song, when Eddie Mercury first wrote that song, people were like, this will never work. It's too long. It has operatic entrance. There's just too much, they said to him. It's too much. It'll never work. And he put the chips in,
Yeah.
and it's one of the most classic songs in history. So sometimes you got to go all in. Sometimes you got to go all in, man.
Believe me, I'm all for let the chips fall where they may. Do the whole thing, go for broke. You ought to know that by now. I'm just saying, note to myself: be careful playing poker with you.
And by the way, one of these days we got to get a game of poker going. I have a poker table that I haven't used just yet.
Okay.
So it's interesting. It's interesting, and I pray that it works. As I said, as a fan, I really do pray that it works.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Hey, look! It's Spider-Man!
The dynamic duo return next week. Don't miss it.